Okay, so I'll just basically read everything on camera and I'll show you guys exactly why I think Nietzsche's works show that he's like very, very, very gender essentialist. There's pretty much no ambiguity about it from my readings, and yeah, let's go over it. Men have so far treated women like birds who had strayed to them from some height, as something more refined and vulnerable, wilder, stranger, sweeter, and more soulful, but as something one has to lock up, lest it fly away. Okay, so he's like describing how men have historically treated women, and yes, men lust for women, men see something in women that, you know, gives men value, like gives women value in the eyes of men. And this protective instinct, maybe not even protective, but possessive instinct, is what leads men to take autonomy away from women and put women into restrictive roles. That's what he's acknowledging here in my understanding. So over here, he's acknowledging that men restrict women. I think that's a pretty obvious reading from this. And okay, let's keep going. To go wrong on the fundamental problem of man and woman, to deny the most abysmal antagonism between them, and the necessity, look at that language, he's saying the necessity of an eternally hostile tension, to dream perhaps of equal rights, to dream of equal rights. Look at that wording, oh my god. Equal education, equal claims and obligations, that is a typical sign of shallowness. And a thinker who has proved shallow in this dangerous place, shallow in his instinct, may be considered altogether suspicious, even more betrayed. Okay, so from this reading over here, what I'm understanding is that he thinks that there's immutable differences between men and women that cannot be overcome. There's always going to be this eternal tension, as he said, and equality, egalitarianism, equal responsibilities, obligations, education. All of this, to him, is a pipe dream. And this clearly shows that, I'm going to call him Nietzsche. Nietzsche is anti-equality. That is my reading from this. And I think it's pretty substantiated by the text, because he's calling the dream, he's calling the goal to get equal rights, education, respect, obligations. He's saying this is a dream. It's just a fantasy, according to him. And anyone who engages in this kind of thinking apparently is, shallow in their instinct, shallow in their considerations. And such a person is dangerous. That's what he's saying. Probably he will be too short for all fundamental problems of life, of the life yet to come too, and incapable of attaining any depth. Now, once again, this is referring to people who believe that it's a good idea to give women equal rights and equal opportunities. Nietzsche thinks that any attempt to do this, any consideration or thought process about this is always going to just be lacking in depth, incapable of depth. And now here he's going to contrast it. A man, on the other hand, who has depth, okay, it's a contrast in his spirit as well as in his desires, including the depth of benevolence, which is capable of severity and hardness and easily mistaken for them, must always think about women as Orientals do. He must conceive of woman as a possession, as property that can be locked, as something predestined for service and achieving her perfection, and that this is unambiguously support for gender roles. He's saying that women are meant to serve, and women only attain their purpose, they're only complete when they are operating in service of a man. So that is unambiguously gender essentialist rhetoric. Here he must base himself on the tremendous region of Asia, on Asia's superiority in the instincts as the Greeks did formerly, who were Asia's best heirs and students, as is well known from Homer's time to the age of Pericles, I don't know how to say his name, as their culture increased along with the range of their powers. They also gradually became more severe and brief, more oriental against women. How necessary, how logical, how humanely desirable even this was is worth pondering. And I mean, it's pretty clear how he's pondered so far, just based on how he's been talking about women, based on how he's been talking about how people who want to give women equal rights are lacking in depth. It seems to me like he's praising the Orientals. He's praising the Greeks for following the Orientals. This passage over here, I'm just going to interpret it as like him just blatantly acknowledging women's purpose is to serve. That's what he's telling me there with that nonsense. Anyway, in no age has the weaker sex been treated with as much respect by men as in ours. That belongs to the democratic inclination and basic taste, just like disrespectfulness for old age. No wonder that this respect is immediately abused. Once more, one learns to demand. Finally, one almost finds this tribute of respect insulting. One would prefer competition for rights, indeed even a genuine fight. Enough. Woman loses her modesty. Let us add that she also loses taste. She unlearns her fear of man, but the woman who unlearns her fear surrenders her most womanly instinct. So this is talking about how women want to be treated equally with men, and Nietzsche believes that in the process of wanting equality, women lose their womanly instinct. They lose their femininity. They lose the thing that makes them special, and like it's not good. He's saying it's not good. He's saying like this kind of thinking that women have in pursuit of equality, in pursuit of equal rights, is abused by them. That's what he's telling me. That's what I'm reading from this. And he says women lose their modesty when they compete in this fashion with men for equal rights. He calls them tasteless. He's condemning them pretty strongly. And yeah, the women who are opposed to, like, let's say, paternalistic attitudes or chivalrous attitudes, he's opposed to them too. Because they find it insulting when men belittle them and infantilize them because they're women. So, yeah, from this passage over here, we can conclude. I'm going to write it here. He is not fond of women's equality and opposition to chivalry. That woman ventures forth when the aspect of man that inspires fear, let us say more precisely, when the man in man is no longer desired and cultivated. That is fair enough. Also comprehensible enough. What is harder to comprehend is that, by the same token, woman degenerates. That is what is happening today. Let us not deceive ourselves about that. See, this is strong language. He believes that women are degenerating by trying to be more equal to men, by trying to be like men, in the sense of having equal rights and opportunities. Whatever the industrial spirit has triumphed over the military and aristocratic spirit, women now aspires to the economic and legal self-reliance of a clerk. And he's obviously framing this as a problem. He doesn't like it when women become independent. Women as a clerk is inscribed on the gate to modern society that is taking shape now, as she thus takes possession of new rights, aspires to become master, and writes progress upon her standards and banners. The opposite development is taking place with terrible clarity. Woman is retrogressing. Okay, so like he's saying that because women are now able to like, you know, have financial independence of some kind, legal self-reliance of some kind, because women want progress, to become their own masters instead of being subordinated to men, women are retrogressing as a result. So because women are trying to escape traditional gender roles, women are retrogressing. They're going back. This is not positive in his framing. The fact that such a thing is happening to him is not a good thing. Since the French Revolution, women's influence in Europe has decreased proportionally. He believes it's decreased proportionally as her rights and claims have increased. So he's not a fan of the emancipation. The emancipation of women, insofar as that is demanded and promoted by women themselves, and not merely by shallow males, is thus seen to be an odd symptom of the increasing weakening and dulling of the most feminine instincts. And he's not a fan of this. He's not a fan of women, embracing equality and then like losing feminine instincts, because of course he's a gender essentialist. There is stupidity in this movement, an almost masculine stupidity, of which a woman who had turned out well, and such women are always prudent, would have to be thoroughly ashamed. So what he's saying is that the people who, go back to traditional values, the women in this movement, in this modern age of his time, the ones who are traditionally feminine are apparently shamed or like humiliated by the modern progressive woman. That's what he's saying, in my understanding. To lose the sense for the ground on which one is most certain of victory, to neglect practice with one's proper weapons, to let one's self go before men, perhaps even to the point of writing a book, when formerly one disciplined oneself, to subtle and cunning humility, to work with virtuous audacity against men's faith in a basically different ideal that he takes to be concealed in woman, something eternally and necessarily feminine, to talk men emphatically and loquaciously out of their notion that woman must be maintained, then taken care of and protected and indulged more delicately, strangely wild and often pleasant domestic animal. Yeah, that's crazy. Women, he thinks women trying to talk to men out of not treating women like babies, like people who can't speak out for themselves, like animals, is apparently negative. That's what he thinks. He thinks this whole thing is stupid, right? He said there's stupidity in this movement. The awkward and indignant search for everything slave-like and serf-like. That's how he's describing women trying to get equality. That has characterized women's position in the order of society so far. Oh wait, hold on. No. Okay, so what he's trying to say is that these, let's call them feminists, these modern women who want rights are trying very hard, indignantly and awkwardly, to find slavery and serfdom in, the status quo, in how women are currently being treated and how women have been historically treated. He's saying that this is like a futile serf, and if slavery, brought up by the feminists, were a counter-argument, and not instead a condition of every higher culture, oh my god, what is the meaning of all this if not a crumbling of feminine instincts? A defeminization. Yeah, he's clearly not a fan of women's liberation movements or women's emancipation. He believes women and men, they have different roles in society, and trying to break free from those roles is bad, and we're going to see more of that. To be sure, there are enough imbecilic friends and corrupters of women among the scholarly asses of the male sex who advise women to defeminize herself in a way and imitate all the stupidities with which men in European manliness is sick. They would like to reduce women, this is rich. They would like to reduce women to the level of general education. Okay, so by giving women the ability to educate themselves, read, go to school, women are apparently being reduced as opposed to becoming mothers. Probably even of reading the newspapers and talking about politics. He makes this sound so negative, like it's a terrible thing to give women the ability to do that. Here and there, they even want to turn women into free thinkers and scribblers. Like, oh my god, this almost sounds like it's parody, but I think he's actually serious. He's actually like a sexist piece of shit. As if a woman without piety would not seem utterly obnoxious and ridiculous to a profound and godless man. Almost everywhere one ruins her nerves with the most pathological and dangerous kind of music. Of course, he's talking about women who want equality, and makes her more hysterical by the day and more incapable of her first and last profession, to give birth to strong children. You see, this is probably the biggest highlight in this whole thing. This is what he thinks women's roles are. This is unambiguous gender essentialism. Altogether, one wants to make her more cultivated and, as I said, make the weaker sex strong through culture, as if history did not teach us as impressively as possible that making men cultivated and making them weak, weakening, splintering, and sicklying over the force of the will have always kept pace, and that the most powerful and influential women of the world, most recently Napoleon's mother, owed their power and ascendancy over men to the force of their will, not to schoolmasters. So again, he's talking about how, like, the best or the most influential and powerful women in the world are not influential or powerful because of their own merits, not because they're educated by the schoolmasters, not because they read the newspapers or whatever, or because they become personally cultivated. No, apparently it's because they're the relatives of powerful male figures like Napoleon's mother. You see, they're not even referring to her by name. They're just calling her Napoleon's mother, because in their heads, the only reason she has power and influence is because she's the mother of a man who was powerful. Like, women's autonomy means nothing here. Like, women don't have individual identities. They're always somebody's mother, somebody's daughter, or somebody's wife. That's it. And that's the role of women. What inspires respect for women or a woman, and often enough even fear, is her nature. Okay? Just her nature, which is more natural than man's, the genuine, cunning suppleness of a beast of prey, the tiger's claw under the glove, the naivete of her egoism, her uneducability and inner wildness, the incomprehensibility, scope, and movement of her desires and virtues. Like, this is just unambiguously, clearly misogyny. He's acting like women are these irrational creatures that cannot be understood, under which there's no framework or scope to contextualize their actions. Their desires and their virtues, all of it is just like mishmash, mumbo-jumbo, according to him. What, in spite of all fear, elicits pity for this dangerous and beautiful cat woman, is even comparing directly to animals, okay, to cats, is that she appears to suffer more, to be more vulnerable, and more, in need of love and condemned to disappointment than any other animal. He's clearly talking about women as if women are animals, attention-hungry animals that cannot think for themselves. Fear and pity with these feelings, man has so far confronted woman, always with one foot in tragedy, which tears to pieces as it enchants. What? And this should be the end. And the breaking of woman's magic spell is at work. The borification of woman is slowly dawning. Oh, Europe. We know the horned animal you always found most attractive. It still threatens you. Your old fable could yet become history once more, and immense stupidity might become master over you and carry off. Immense stupidity, of course, referring to the women's liberation movement, and this time no god would hide it. No, only an idea, a modern idea. Modern ideas, which he's clearly very opposed to. He has this antagonistic relation to them. But yeah, anyway, he's not a good guy. He's a very bad man.